Everybody, it's Aislinn. Welcome back to my channel. My throat is not feeling very luscious today, so I may sound a little off. It's disgusting outside, it's raining, it's gross, and I woke up with a sore throat, and now here we are recording anyway. I'm bringing you my February wrap-up today. I did not mean to go a little MIA for a month on my channel. I just found February was literally so fast. I had 2 weeks of class. I finished on the 14th, and then I had a lot of other stuff going on, and I was like, I just want to take a break and like read and do nothing. Turns out I did nothing other than play video games. I barely even read in February. So I did film a January wrap up, and I never got around to editing it because it ended up being like 40 minutes long, and I was like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow, and then I didn't. So I did read in January. I've actually read like 16 or 17 books this year so far, maybe more, around 16. And I was like, oh, I could just do a rundown of them in this video, and I don't even want to do that. So you obviously can go look at my Goodreads and see what I have read in the past 2 months, but I am going to talk about just what I read in February today and make it really brief and fun because I don't have a lot of energy today. I'm very tired, and it's probably evident in me even talking right now. So I just want to curl up with my book and read because it's literally like raining outside. Like, it's really gross. So I read 4 books in February, and I literally don't have any of them as a physical copy. One of them is an ebook. 2 of them I got from my library, and the other I borrowed from a friend. So I will just put the covers up on the screen and you can enjoy it that way. So no physical books this month, apologies. But the first book that I read in February was just a short like romance novella thing called 1 Week Girlfriend. It's like a new adult romance. I have this on my Kindle. It was okay. Like, I gave it 4 stars because of like the characters were, I thought, well done. It's nothing like super literary fiction, but I enjoyed it. It's like a Kindle self-published book, and I don't remember how I felt reading it. Like, I was like more appalled by the trauma and the topics it dealt with. I think that was why I was like, wow, this is some hard-hitting shit. So yeah, it was very short though, so I read it really fast. I think I actually read it while I was in class, like on my computer. Either way, 1 Week Girlfriend. There is like a whole series. I'm like currently in the middle of the second book, but I haven't really felt like reading it, so I'll get to it eventually. The second book that I read in February, I did start in January and then I didn't finish it until February, so I'm counting it as February, is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This was so hyped, and like, so everyone's saying it was like their favorite romance of 2019 and their favorite ever, and like top book, and so I obviously had high expectations, and I did enjoy it, and I really rooted for Alex and Henry. Oh my god, I couldn't remember his name for a moment, and I was super in love with them being in love. I was super happy for them. I did enjoy the characters. I thought they were all super unique and fun and very different from themselves, and I enjoyed it. I did feel it was a little long, and that it could have been shorter. I also wasn't in love with the writing style. I didn't agree with it being written in 3rd person present tense. As someone who is also a writer, I just didn't find it worked very well, and it was very confusing, especially because there were moments where it would go into 1st person, like with the way that the thoughts were conveyed, and it just was confusing. And also the timeline was really badly done. Like, there should have been breaks in the writing when time had passed, and there wouldn't be. So suddenly it's like 2 weeks later in the same sentence, and it just wasn't, I don't think it was polished enough in that sense. I think that part really should have been more fleshed out. Towards the end of the book, it did get better, but it just was so like jolting, and it really just would launch me out of the story when that would happen. And I'm a firm believer in taking a pause and taking a chunk and just like letting that empty space sit there and let you know that time has passed. I did still enjoy the book. I just don't think I liked the writing style as much as I could have personally. And I did give it 4 stars. The third book that I read was The Other People by C.J. Tudor, and I read this for Kayla from Books and Lala's Literally Dead book club, which she just started, and I'm really excited about, and especially because I've really been wanting to get more into the thriller and like mystery genre. I read true crime and I like horror, but still getting new into that as well. And this I found would be helpful to talk about these books with other readers, whether it's on Goodreads or Instagram or whichever, and get a sense of what are the good thrillers and mysteries out there, and discover new ones that aren't just like the standard popular titles. Like this was the first CJ Tudor that I had read. I haven't read The Chalk Man. I am interested in reading it now because I did enjoy this book. I gave it 3.5 stars. I just found it could have been stronger. The characters I think were well done, but a lot of it I found to be a bit predictable, which I don't know if I want that or not. Like, I think for me personally, I want a bit more unpredictable, but you still can see the signs leading up to what the truth actually is. And I also didn't like how there's like a paranormal element, and I didn't like how it wasn't explained, and how it literally is just like used as an excuse for something. Like, not an excuse, but it like is the solution to something coming together, and then it's literally just like never mentioned again or never used again. And it's just like there could be a whole book about that subplot, and I think that would be more interesting. But I think the concept behind The Other People was really interesting, because it's basically like you say something tragic happens to you and your family, and someone like caused it. You can go to the other people, which is like this anonymous group on the dark web, and ask them for a favor, like getting vengeance or whatever. Like, say someone killed your sister and that person like got away scot-free, like barely went to jail. You could ask the other people to kill him or do something to him or whatever, like the murderer, as your favor. But then when they come back saying you have to fulfill your favor for someone else, whether no matter what it is, you have to do it, and if you don't, you suffer the consequences. So that's basically following this situation that ends up tied up with other people. So like Gabe sees his daughter get kidnapped basically, but the police believe she's dead because her body is found in their house, and this whole other stuff. So it was very interesting, but there's just certain things that I found a little disappointing in the reveal, and like it seemed very obvious. I don't know if it was meant to be that way, or if it was just the way I was analyzing it. I was talking about this with Emily, because in my non-posted January wrap-up, I ranted about Lock Every Door by Riley Zeiger, which I do have a book review of if you were interested. I gave it 2 stars because it was so predictable, and I didn't enjoy it because of that. And it was really disappointing what the truth ended up being. And she's like, you read so much true crime, like you could see a lot of that coming. Like, she's like I'm a very paranoid person, constantly scared I'm going to be murdered despite living in a really safe town. And there's less crime in Canada and it doesn't happen and all this stuff. But like, there's paranoia and there's anxiety. And she's like, you just like you go over all that in your mind a lot of the time. So like, maybe that's true. So I'll see how it goes. I did enjoy The Other People though. As I said, I do want to read The Chalk Man. I think The Other People would have been a bit more successful if it was a bit longer, because it was only like 324 pages, at least the edition I read is. And if it could be a little more fleshed out, I think that would have helped. The characters were okay, as I said. I think I liked, I think her name was Katie the best. And Gabe was okay. I like felt for him in his search for his daughter, and I'm like, that must suck, like literally knowing she could be alive and then no one believes you, and it's just true, like cases of true crime all over again, and people going missing, and the police being like, no, it's fine, and all this other stuff. So I felt for him. I don't know how I felt about his character specifically. You sort of want to redeem him for something bad that he does, and I think his punishment for it is definitely just. Does that make sense? If you've read the book, you'll know what I'm talking about, and I don't want to spoil it. I don't know. I just wanted a little bit more, because he did just kind of seem like the dad who should do better. But does he actually do better? I don't know. We'll never know, because the book ends. The last book that I read in February was Lost Girls: An Unsolved American Mystery by Robert Kolker. This is a true crime book. See, I've mentioned true crime. Now I'm providing with a recommendation. I picked this up because there's a Netflix movie coming out about this book. Like, it's based on the book, which is obviously based on the Long Island serial killer, on March 13th. So I'm gonna watch that, and I wanted to read the book first. And it was way different than I was expecting. Not to rehash everything that has to do with the Long Island serial killer. You can Google it if you're interested, or read the book. That's also a thing. But basically, this woman went missing in this really rich neighborhood in Long Island, and like she just went screaming through the neighborhood at like 1 or 2 in the morning, screaming for help, and no one really helps her. They like call 911, but she like runs away and is like no, and then she goes missing and is never heard from again. And in the police's search for her, they end up finding 4 bodies, 4 women who went missing over a few years, but they all turn out that they are sex workers, and the woman who went missing also was. And then they end up finding like other bodies, and then they find the woman eventually later as well in a different area. It's basically crazy. Basically, there ends up being like 11 bodies all within this like really small area that's like either one person's dumping body dumping ground, or like 2, they don't really know. But basically the book is talking about the 4 women's bodies that are discovered story, and then the one woman who went missing eventually, like not first, but like she was the one who caused all of the searches to happen, because her mother was pushing for it. And it's basically documenting their childhoods and stories, and like how they ended up either being forced to work into sex work, like forced to go into sex work, or choosing to go into it, and documenting the events, I guess, of their lives, and then all of the like shorter period events right before they went missing, and then the search and talk with their family members. It was actually, I think it was pretty well done, considering the author was more focusing on the women's lives and how the system failed them, because they wrote them off as being, oh, this is part of sex work, like they go missing all the time, they'll come back, like not actually putting out a search for them, and the police being like, it's fine, and then not taking it seriously. And he did challenge the idea of like, why do we as a society blame the sex workers for being murdered when really we should be blaming the Johns or the, fucking killers who actually are doing the murdering. But it's like, you shouldn't be blaming the women for working in sex when you should be blaming the demand for it. If there wasn't a demand, people wouldn't have to work in it. So it's like a whole problem. Not to get super analytical. This is a booktube channel. But anyway, politics are everywhere, as you can see. But basically, it's like documenting that. It didn't document as much of the like case as I expected it to. It was definitely more from the victims and their family's point of view. And some of their family is like really high maintenance, I would say. And it like shows those dynamics. So I am curious to see what the movie does, if it focuses more on the case, like from the police's perspective. I do usually want to have a bit of both. So this was, but I understand why it was more from the victim's perspective, because they were literally like basically tossed away by the system and being like, because there was a delay in searching for them, they missed crucial evidence probably, and there's a lot of mistakes that happened, and I'm disappointed. But basically, it was enjoyable. I gave it 4 stars. The writing was really good. Obviously, I can't really comment on content because I was expecting it to be heavy, and I knew it was going to be heavy, and it still sucked, and they still don't have any suspects. Like, why? It just makes me upset. Hopefully they eventually solve it. But that was the 4th book that I read. Let me know if you've read any of these, or if you've planned to read any of these. I did start Nos 4A2, which is my reading in numbers challenge book for February. It's so big. As you can see, I'm only on page 257 of 686. So I'm going to take a crack at this today and try to finish this and eventually start my March read, which being the 3rd month of the year is 3 Dark Crowns by Kendra Blake. I did try to read that, I think it was last year at some time, on ebook, and I couldn't get into the ebook, so I might try the audiobook, or I might try picking up a physical copy from my library and reading it that way. Sometimes there are just some ebooks that I'm like, I just don't want to read this as an ebook, like, because I use Libby for the library ebooks, which is on my phone. My phone's not very big, so I just wanted to have it on a bigger physical page, so I'm going to pick up that soon. Hopefully I don't DNF it. We'll see how that goes. I have to finish this first, so I'm going to take a stab at this today. So let me know if you've read any of these books. We can have a chit chat down in the comments, or you can find me on Twitter and Instagram. And let me know what you're reading in March. I'm not going to do a TBR, as I mentioned, with my 2020 reading plans, because I'm just kind of going with what works for what I'm feeling. But I will have some new videos up this month as well, and I'm excited for those. So thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this. I'm sorry I'm not at my regular energy level. I will be back to that this week and filming some more stuff, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!